So today we're gonna do a fun little challenge that I give myself every once in a while, and that is a 7-day cosplay challenge. I'm gonna give myself a week to make a whole cosplay start to finish using primarily materials that I already have. I did a Batgirl cosplay, picture up here, last time that I did this, and it was super fun. And this time I'm going to be making the peasant dress that Aurora wears in Sleeping Beauty, image here. So the first thing I did was find my materials. This kind of purplish brown fabric is the only fabric I bought for this. It's for the skirt and it was on sale for I think $3 a yard. I got 2.5 yards. Then I went through my fabric stash and I found this off-white eyelet cotton that I'm going to use for the blouse, as well as this lace collar that I'm going to use to mimic the white collar she has on hers. It's a slightly different shape, but I think it's really beautiful. Then I found in my stash also some black satin that I'm going to use for the outer layer of the corset, and I have some plain black cotton to use for the inside. And I also found this really beautiful lace trim in my stash that I think is going to look really nice along the top of the corset. I have some little bronze flower eyelets as well that I'm going to be using for the lace-up parts. And I dug out a wig from my wig box. This is a buttercup in titanium blonde from Arta Wigs, and I already had this. So I'm starting off by making a pattern for the corset. I'm just doing the duct tape pattern method on my mannequin, and then I'm going to bring it in at the waist just a little bit because I want a slight cinch. Alrighty, it is 3:30 p.m. on day 2 of this challenge, and what I got done late yesterday and earlier today is the corset pattern. It's all finished up. I've traced out all my pieces, added my seam allowances and everything, so this is gonna get made into a mock-up probably tomorrow. But my main goal for today is to work on the blouse. I like to make my costumes from the innermost layers out, so the blouse is a good place for me to start. I'm going to use just my basic bodice block. It's a 2-dart bodice, so it's got a bust dart and a waist dart in the front, and then a waist dart in the back. And then I'm going to be making 3/4 length bishop sleeves, so that'll be just below my elbow. And I've drafted that out. Hopefully that'll be something I'm able to get mostly done today. Very optimistic about that, so we'll see. So a lot of eyelet fabric, like the kind I'm using for this blouse, doesn't really have an apparent right and wrong side, but this fabric actually does. It's a much darker color on one side, so I'm using that as the right side of my fabric. I cut out all my pieces, and now I have my darts marked in pins, so I'm gonna go sew those up. So even though this fabric is semi-sheer and I would normally use a French seam to finish my seam allowances, since it's going under something, it's more important to me that these seam allowances don't have a lot of bulk to them, so instead I've used a zigzag finish. Alright, day 3. I'm a little bit behind where I thought I would be because it just got too hot to work in here yesterday. It's a little hotter this year than it was last year, and the afternoon sun just hits right where the sewing machine is, but today I've pulled out the fan, I've got the window blinds down and everything, so hopefully it'll be a little bit cooler in here. I've mostly finished the blouse. I'm going to finish off that neck hole with some bias tape, and then I need to put on the button plackets that I've got cut out, and put on these cute little flower buttons. The bottom hem of the shirt is finished with lace hem tape, because that'll give me a nice soft finish that won't irritate my skin, and it doesn't add a lot of bulk. Then I'll be able to whip stitch on the collar, and I'm hoping to get all of that done today, and I think I can. And then, fingers crossed, I'll start on the pattern for the skirt. So I'm using my older sewing machine, and it just does not handle buttonholes as well as my other machine, so these are kind of messed up, but they're going to be under the over bodice anyways, so it doesn't really matter. I'm setting this aside to do the hand sewing on later when it gets too hot to work in this room, and now I'm going to switch gears and work on the skirt. So for the skirt, I've started with a circle skirt that's about 10 inches bigger than my waist, and then I'm going to pleat it down a little with 1 pleat each at the front, each side, and in the back. I've also dug out this zipper, which is close enough that I think it won't show up too bad if I sew it in the back, and of course there are going to be pockets. So I've gotten some work done on the skirt. It's got nice big pockets, plenty of room for a phone, and I've been finishing all my seam allowances with zigzag stitches where they're not on the selvage. And I can also tell it's time for me to take a break because I just sewed the back seam up wrong sides together, so I'll come back to this later. I tacked on the collar and put on the buttons, and this is looking super cute. There's just one little problem, which is that the back of the collar is a little bit low for the neckline of the shirt, but I'm going to be wearing a long wig with this that should cover that up totally fine, and if it does really bother me, I can always go back in and change the neckline of the shirt later. Forgive the weird lighting, it is nighttime right now, but I wanted to try on the blouse, and I think it's very cute. I actually really like the way the sleeves turned out. They could have been a little bit fuller, but this is actually pretty accurate to what appears in the movie. I think the collar is really sweet, and I like the little white buttons. The collar is a little bit different in the back than it probably should be, but I already had it on hand, and the long hair is going to cover most of it anyways. So it's day 4 now, and what I want to do today is put the waistband on the skirt. It's been hung up all night to let the bias kind of settle in, and now I'm going to pleat it onto the waistband, and then ideally today I'd also like to get it hemmed. So this skirt has these funky little pleats at center front and center back that I copied from how it is in the movie, and I actually kind of love them. The one at the front adds nice fullness and makes it look like the whole skirt is fuller, and then the one at the back covers up that I used black thread to sew in the zipper. It's like 5:30. I haven't gotten a ton done today because I had some stuff that needed to be dealt with pretty urgently, but that's all taken care of now, so I can go back to working on this. And I remembered that she has this floaty purple shawl. I'll put an image where you can see it here. So I went through my fabric and pulled out this, which is a really lightweight polyester. It's a little bit lighter in color than I'd like, so what I'm going to do is cut out the shawl, hem it up, and then I'm going to dye it darker using some leftover fabric dye. The reason I'm doing it that way instead of dyeing the whole piece of fabric and then cutting out my shawl is because I actually like the color this is, so I don't want to dye the whole piece darker just for this one project. I used a zigzag stitch with my rolled hem foot to give a really quick, neat hem that looks a little bit fancier than if I just use a straight stitch. It's day 5, I'm outside, and I just finished dyeing the shawl. So this is the original color, this is the new color, and this is the cautionary tale on why you should probably wear gloves when you're dyeing fabric. I'm only just now getting around to leveling the skirt hem, and I have to say, using my phone tripod to measure up from the bottom of the floor is working out really well for me. I'm using lace hem tape to do the hem so that I don't have quite as much bulk, and then on the underside it'll also look nice and decorative, just in case I don't end up making a petticoat. The hem is all nice and finished. I love the way it looks on the inside especially. And I did something I don't always do, which is dug out a matching thread. This is as close as I could get because this fabric is a truly bizarre color that's really hard to find a match for. And I'm happy to say it passed its spin check with flying colors. I found this remnant of glazed cotton in my fabric stash, so I'm going to use this for my mock-up and hopefully lining of the corset. It is day 6. Last night I finished the mock-up / lining of the corset, and so today I'm gonna press this out, put in the boning channels, and hopefully start, maybe mostly finish, the outside layer of that. But before I get started on all that, the first thing I want to do is actually set the curls into the wig. Because I'm going to be using a steamer to do this, the curls are going to need time to cool down and dry, so if I do that in the morning, it'll be ready to style by later tonight or even tomorrow. So I don't have curlers or a curling iron, and the way I curl my wigs is I wrap the hair around my fingers and then I tie it into that loop using a piece of ribbon, and then I steam the wig to set it. It's not technically like the correct way of doing this. Rollers are going to be much more efficient, but if you don't have them, it does work. I made a couple of boning channels and then I tried to put the steel in them and realized I made them too small. So I'm gonna unpick those. I've only done like 3, so it's not a huge deal. And then I'm going to iron some larger boning channels so that I can actually fit the spiral steel I have in. So I cut and rounded my flat steel boning. I don't have any of the right power tools for this, so the way I do it isn't necessarily the recommended way, but it does work. I score the surface with a hacksaw and then just bend the metal back and forth until it gives. It usually only takes 2 or 3 bends. And then I take off the edges of the steel to round it off using a pair of bolt cutters, file the ends, and then wrap them in Teflon tape. So I made the whole outer shell and I pressed it out with my tailor's ham. If you make strapless bodices or boned bodices or really anything with a curve in it, I really suggest making or buying a tailor's ham because it saves so much time. I'll link the tutorial I used to make mine in the description below. Definitely check it out. I ironed some interfacing onto the back of my black satin that'll hopefully prevent the boning from showing through. So my sewing machine got weird and pissy about the number of layers I was sewing through when I was doing the top stitching, so the tension and the bobbin is all off and these stitches are just kind of awful, and it kind of ate up the front of the point there. Luckily, I planned for this and I have some pretty trim that I'm going to cut in half and apply to the top edge after I've put in all the boning. So I trimmed that ribbon lace stuff in half and pulled out the ribbon. It's pinned to the top of the corset. I think it looks super pretty. And now I'm going to stitch it down. I'm going to do little prick stitches in the front, and then the stitching on the back is going to be a lot larger. It's day 7 and we are in the home stretch of this cosplay. I really don't have that much left to do, which is good because I actually have plans at 2 p.m. so I'm gonna have to finish this whole thing before then. So I finished up the corset and I've marked out all my eyelet placement. So that is going to get 20 of these little brass flower eyelets, which are just so super cute. I also have some black paracord to lace the back and then some black satin ribbon to do the little front lacing. Last night I actually brushed out the curls in the back of the wig, so today I have to do the bangs, and I'll head on over and show you the wig right now. So I went with a kind of loose curl set because when I was looking at the hair in the movie, it really looked a little more 1940s to me, to be honest. It's got a hairnet over it right now to protect it while I style the bangs. I can't decide if I want to keep this as a bow or if I want to sew the ends of the ribbon together, so for now I'm going to leave it as a bow and then I'll see how it looks when I try it on. I also put the eyelets in the back. I did put one in the wrong spot, so this is a lesson in measure twice, hammer metal things into a garment once, but it's not a huge deal. I had this all laced up to show you guys, but then I forgot that I was supposed to take video, so I've already halfway unlaced it, but the corset is all finished. It looks really cute. It ended up not having the full lacing gap that I thought it was going to because I forgot to measure the difference between my mannequin and myself, but it still looks really cute. I have a modesty panel that I'm going to put in the back just to cover up any gaps between the laces. I am going to have to depend on the headband to cover up some of the wig's sins, but after this sets I'll be able to take out those hairpins and hopefully it'll look alright. I didn't want to cut the wig too much because I do have a project I want to use this for later, so for now I'm done. So that should actually be the project completely done, and just in time too, because I'm about to leave for the day. So the costume is all done. I really do love how this turned out. I think it looks super cute. I think I do also look very much like the character in this costume. It's super cute in the back as well. I'm leaving the laces out right now, but I might tuck them away later. The only part I think I didn't show getting made is the headband, which is just a piece of bias cut satin that I wrapped around a headband that I'd put some batting on and then hand sewed into place. I think this is so fun. I'm really excited about this, and it's super spinny, plus it has pockets, which is awesome. And I actually did, I think I talked about it, find a white skirt that works perfectly as a petticoat, so let's go take some photos. As you can see, the skirt is super spinny, and I actually really love the way that the petticoat peeks out from underneath, and I may remake a better petticoat for this at a later date, but overall I'm super pleased with this. Once I get a chance to go through and edit some of the other photos from when I was outside, I'll put those up on Instagram too. We're on like take 12 or 13 of trying to film the outro. It's a little hot outside and I think that's scrambling my brains. Even though it is hot outside though, I feel pretty comfortable in this costume. I'd say the only place I really feel like I'm overheating a little bit is like right around where the waistband of the skirt and the petticoat are sitting underneath the skirt, underneath the corset, because I have like 12 layers of fabric there, so of course that's where I'm gonna feel a little warm. Overall though, this costume is super comfortable, I feel cute, I think I actually do look cute. I'm gonna be super excited to wear this in the future. I love the skirt, I love that it has pockets, and I love the way it hangs. I like the corset, I love all the little details and the level of hand finishing I was able to do, even though I only had 7 days to make this whole thing. This shirt is super cute, I love the little eyelets. I really do like the way the collar sits in the back as well, which I thought I wasn't going to. I'm just super pleased with this. I do have a couple pieces that are going to go with this when I do actually wear it to a convention, mainly a pair of shoes, because I took all these photos barefoot and that's not gonna fly at any sort of event. So I have a pair of black flats that are gonna go with this. And I am going to order a different wig in the future. This wig doesn't look awful. I do like it all right, and I think it could be worn and look totally fine. It's just not quite right, and it's making this part of my forehead very sweaty because there is so much hair right there. So I think in the future I'm gonna buy a wig and actually like cut it so that I can get the bangs to look right. But overall, I love this. I'm super proud of it. Definitely gonna wear it in the future. Anything I mentioned in the video will be linked in the description, as well as any of my other social media accounts if you want to check out what I'm doing on there. Until then, happy sewing and I'll see you soon!